Rayanne Waldron was 51 years old when he was involved in taking the life of an Aryan Brotherhood leader inside Salinas Valley State Prison in October 2025. Waldron was a member of the Mongols Motorcycle Club before going to prison. The Mongols were rivals of the Hells Angels. In 2003, Waldron shot and took the life of a Hells Angels associate outside a bar in El Cajon in San Diego County. He was convicted and sentenced to life in prison. He was transferred to Salinas Valley State Prison in Soledad, California to serve his time. On October 23, 2025, Waldron and two other inmates attacked Todd Morgan on a recreation yard at Salinas Valley. Morgan was 57 years old. He was a high-ranking member of the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang. Morgan was serving state sentences for robbery, burglary, drug possession, and firearms possession with 3 strikes law enhancements. He was also serving a 21-year federal sentence for running a large-scale drug distribution ring from inside prison. Morgan had pleaded guilty in 2021 to conspiring to distribute methamphetamine and heroin. Around 10 in the morning, Waldron along with Todd Givens and Robert England attacked Morgan with improvised weapons on the prison yard. Correctional staff witnessed the attack. They ordered the perpetrators to stop. Waldron and his accomplices continued the assault. Morgan was stabbed multiple times. He passed away from his injuries. Waldron, Givens, and England were immediately placed in restrictive housing. The Monterey County District Attorney's Office and prison investigators began investigating the incident. Authorities have not released the motive for the attack. A law enforcement source said authorities were not previously aware Morgan was in bad standing with other members of the Aryan Brotherhood. Waldron is now facing additional charges for causing death inside prison. If convicted, he will receive another life sentence on top of the life sentence he is already serving for the 2003 incident in El Cajon.
Daniel was born in 1974. He had previous convictions for attempted offense and assault with a firearm from 1995. He became a member of the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang in California. On October 29, 2016, Daniel took the life of fellow inmate Zachary Scott at Salinas Valley State Prison. Scott was 36 years old. Daniel and another inmate attacked Scott in an outdoor area of the prison. Daniel stabbed Scott 17 times in his arms, shoulders, face, abdomen, and rib cage. Scott passed away from his injuries. Daniel admitted to guards immediately after the attack. He told a prison guard he hit Scott so hard the weapon went in his back and out his chest. Daniel also allegedly told the guard he was targeting another inmate who had recently been moved to protective custody. As guards took him away, Daniel allegedly yelled that other white inmates had 2 weeks to get off the yard or else another hit would take place. Court documents say Daniel took Scott's life because Scott had failed to carry out an order Daniel had given him. Scott was supposed to take the life of another inmate but failed to do it. Scott also lost valuable drugs belonging to Daniel and by extension the Aryan Brotherhood. Daniel admitted that he willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation caused Scott's death in order to maintain his status within the Aryan Brotherhood. In 2017, Daniel pleaded guilty in Monterey County Superior Court to the offense. He was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison. He was transferred to California State Prison Sacramento, also known as New Folsom. In 2019, federal prosecutors charged Daniel and more than 24 other Aryan Brotherhood members and associates in a sweeping racketeering case. The case alleged the gang orchestrated drug deals and offenses from inside California prisons using contraband cell phones from 2011 to 2016. 16 members were charged, including alleged leaders Ronald Renegade Yandel. Daniel was charged with causing death in aid of racketeering. On December 2023, Daniel pleaded guilty to offense in aid of racketeering before Chief U.S. District Judge Kimberly J. Mueller. He was sentenced to life in federal prison. The plea deal called for Daniel to be transferred to a federal facility instead of remaining in California State Prison. Daniel had previously accused state prison guards of threatening him, planting contraband in his cell, and being complicit in the deaths of other inmates. The plea deal did not require Daniel to cooperate with prosecutors. However, the transfer never happened. 7 months after his plea, Daniel remained at New Folsom. Federal prosecutors failed to secure his transfer to the federal system. In July 2024, Daniel filed a motion to vacate his guilty plea. He argued prosecutors violated the agreement by failing to get him transferred. He said he would not have pleaded guilty if he had known he would remain in state prison. Daniel is now 49 years old and still fighting to either get transferred or withdraw his plea. He is serving a life sentence without parole for causing death to benefit the Aryan Brotherhood. Kenneth Bash was born around 1986. He became an associate of the Aryan Brotherhood prison gang and a member of the Fresnecs, a Fresno-based gang allied with the Aryan Brotherhood. In September 2020, Bash was incarcerated at Salinas Valley State Prison serving time for previous convictions. While behind bars, Bash became the right-hand man to Todd Morgan, a high-ranking Aryan Brotherhood member. Together, they ran a massive drug trafficking operation from inside prison using contraband cell phones. In 2020, the bureau of alcohol, tobacco, firearms, and explosives launched Operation Lucky Charms to investigate the Aryan Brotherhood in Fresnex. Agents tapped Bash's prison cell phone. What they discovered was shocking. Bash was coordinating multi-pound shipments of methamphetamine and heroin across multiple states, including Montana, Missouri, Idaho, and Alabama. He used a woman named Stephanie Madsen as his secretary on the outside. She followed his orders. She mailed letters soaked in liquidized drugs into the prison. She coordinated drug deals. She committed EDD fraud at his direction. Wiretaps captured Bash discussing a 12-pound shipment of methamphetamine to Montana. He told an accomplice to get that door panel ready on a rental car they were using for the multi-state drive. He coordinated 5-pound shipments picked up in Anaheim. He arranged for contraband to be thrown over prison walls. In one instance, an underling used satellite imagery to navigate through vineyards near the prison in darkness. The person tossed a pillowcase containing 20 cell phones, SIM cards, a mobile hotspot, charging cables, drill bits, wrenches, tobacco, rolling papers, bottles of Jack Daniel's whiskey, and Patron tequila over the walls. Guards seized the bundle. Police stopped the underling, who threw it as he drove away. They found methamphetamine and heroin in his car. On November 19, 2020, federal and state authorities arrested more than 60 Aryan Brotherhood members and associates. Bash was charged with drug trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. The investigation intercepted 11 acts of violence before they happened. Authorities seized over 80 pounds of methamphetamine, 5 pounds of heroin, and over 25 firearms. Bash's defense attorney argued that the search of his contraband cell phone violated the Fourth Amendment. He claimed evidence should be suppressed. But judges denied the motion. The cell phone was contraband. Prisoners have no expectation of privacy for illegal items. Bash pleaded guilty to federal racketeering charges. He was convicted and sentenced to federal prison. He is now 38 years old. He coordinated drug deals worth millions of dollars from inside a prison cell. He smuggled drugs, alcohol, and phones into a maximum security facility. He ran a criminal enterprise while already serving time. Bash proved that prison walls don't stop determined criminals. They adapt. They use technology. They continue their operations from behind bars. Timothy Joseph was born on April 27, 1973, and raised in Atwater Village, Los Angeles. He joined the Toonerville Refa 13 gang early on. In 1994, at just 18, he went to prison for assaulting a police officer in San Bernardino County. From 1994 to 2000, he was either locked up or on parole. During his parole periods, he allegedly shot 7 people, taking 3 lives and attempting to kill 2 LAPD officers. MCG ran Toonerville like a military unit, ordering members into physical training and target practice. On September 14, 2000, 17-year-old John Marshall High School student Marty Gregory Roybal was fatally shot while spray painting near Red Car River Park. Earlier on June 3, 2000, rival gang member Ryan Gonzalez, age 16, was shot while walking home from a party.
allegedly because he shared MCGEG's nickname Uero. On July 4, 2000, LAPD officers Thomas Baker and Carlos Langarica chased a stolen vehicle into Toonerville territory. MCGE and associates ambushed them, opening fire. The officers survived. 3 gang members received 2 life terms, and MCGE was later convicted of 2 counts of attempted causing death for the attack. MCGE also wrote rap lyrics describing his crimes. The notebook matched at least 3 real incidents. By March 2001 he vanished, and the U.S. Marshals placed him among their 15 most wanted fugitives. LAPD compared him to Charles Manson. He appeared on America's Most Wanted, with rewards reaching $50,000. Authorities captured him in Arizona in 2003. In October 2007, an LA jury convicted him of 3 counts of first-degree causing death and 4 counts of attempted causing death. On January 9, 2009, he was sentenced to death. In 2012, while on death row at San Quentin, he slashed 2 officers with a shank. On April 3, 2025, the California Supreme Court overturned his conviction and death sentence due to an improperly dismissed juror. Now 51, he awaits retrial at Kern Valley State Prison. This is what happens when violence becomes your identity. You take lives over a nickname, ambush officers, write lyrics bragging about it, go on the run, get caught, get sentenced to death, attack guards, and decades later, even with overturned convictions, the concrete walls still don't let you go. David Cervantes was born around 1948. He is known as DC. Cervantes is already serving a life sentence in state prison for first-degree causing death. But in 2021, federal authorities indicted him along with 53 other Nostra Familia members and associates. Cervantes was one of 3 generals who ran the entire Nostra Familia prison gang. He was part of the 7-member General Council, the primary decision-making body. Cervantes was responsible for receiving complaints containing allegations of member wrongdoing, appointing investigators, accepting findings and recommendations, and forwarding final recommendations regarding member discipline to the General Council. As a general, Cervantes decided when members should be attacked or taken from life for violating gang rules. He was also the regimental commander of Norteo street gangs in Kings County. He oversaw, managed, directed, and controlled criminal activity conducted by gang members. Between 2015 and 2019, Cervantes was involved in multiple conspiracies. In 2015, he conspired to cause Lorenzo Lencho Guzman and Antonio Sumbris Villagrana to pass away. Villagrana survived the attack. In 2016, Cervantes conspired in the attempted incident involving John Knocker's Ms. Quiz. In 2019, he conspired to cause John Shanks Reyna and Matt Rocca to pass away. Rocca survived. Cervantes approved violent actions against members deemed disloyal. He enforced discipline through incidents and assaults. The trial began in 2024 and lasted 3 months. Prosecutors presented testimony from more than 50 witnesses and dozens of wiretapped phone calls. The evidence revealed a lucrative and violent criminal enterprise with presence in every Bay Area county. Nostra Familia controlled drug trafficking, money laundering, incidents that caused death, and attempted incidents. On October 2, 2024, a federal jury found Cervantes guilty of racketeering conspiracy and multiple counts related to conspiracies to cause death and attempted incidents. Cervantes was convicted along with 3 other top leaders: James Cone, Joe Perez, Guillermo Capone Solorio, and Guero Puppet Franco. On June 17, 2025, United States District Judge Juan Van Gonzalez Rogers sentenced Cervantes to 120 months in federal prison. That's 10 years. Perez received 120 months. Solorio received 175 months. Franco received 175 months. The sentencing marked the successful completion of the prosecution of Nostra Familia leadership. 40 members and associates have now been convicted and sentenced. This includes all 7 members of the General Council. United States Attorney Craig H. Misakian said the brutal violence and drug trafficking run from within state prisons touched every county in the Bay Area. With these sentences, the community is now safer.
Cervantes is now 76 years old. He will serve his 10-year federal sentence and then return to state prison to continue serving his life sentence for the original causing death conviction. He will likely die behind bars. This is what happens when you become a prison gang general. You think ordering incidents from your cell keeps you powerful. You think the general counsel makes you untouchable. But federal prosecutors build RICO cases. Wiretaps catch everything. 50 witnesses testify, and you get convicted at age 76. You'll spend your final years in federal prison before returning to state prison. The concrete walls never let go. Johnny Martinez was born around 1976. He earned the nickname Crow. In 1994, at age 18, Martinez was convicted of taking part in a brawl that ended in the stabbing demise of Ricky Michaels after a pickup basketball game in Fullerton. Under the law at the time, Martinez was considered as accountable as the actual perpetrator. He was sentenced to 24 years to life in state prison. Decades later, the law changed. Martinez's conviction was overturned in December 2023. But instead of freedom, federal authorities arrested him. While in state prison, Martinez became an inmate leader. He taught himself the law. He organized hunger strikes against solitary confinement. He completed paralegal classes. But he also rose to become leader of the Orange County Mexican Mafia after Peter Ojeda passed away in 2018. Using smuggled cell phones, Martinez ordered incidents and directed criminal activities from prison. In 2017, he allegedly orchestrated 2 separate incidents from Salinas Valley State Prison. On January 19, 2017, Martinez communicated more than 3,500 times via cell phone with Gregory David Munoz, who was incarcerated at Calipatria State Prison. Martinez ordered 4 associates to collect money from Robert Rios at his Placentia home. Security footage captured armed men with covered faces holding Rios at gunpoint. Rios fought back. He was shot and taken from life. On August 5, 2017, Martinez learned a former associate was at a Placentia residence. He ordered 2 men to cause him to pass away. The man was shot 7 times but survived. In one intercepted call, Martinez told a gang member, "You wanna disrespect me, I'll kill you in a heartbeat. My homeboy is going to put a gun to your head and shoot you." In 2022, federal authorities indicted Martinez for racketeering. At his 2023 trial, his former right-hand man testified Martinez raked in illegal profits from gangs, drug dealers, and jail inmates. Anyone involved in any criminal element got taxed. Martinez got a percentage of everything. 3 Orange County gang members were convicted in October 2023 of acting on Martinez's orders. They caused a gang member to pass away because he stole drugs and money twice. The man was shot 7 times in the back and once in the head. Each faces mandatory life in federal prison. Martinez pleaded not guilty. His trial for federal racketeering charges is scheduled for 2025. He faces life in prison. This is what happens when you think you can run a criminal empire from a prison cell. You organize hunger strikes while secretly ordering incidents. You use contraband phones to communicate thousands of times. You order people shot in their own homes. But wiretaps catch everything. Your associates flip and testify against you. And you face federal racketeering charges with mandatory life. Martinez is 48 years old. The concrete walls will never let go.
Anthony McKnight was born in 1954. In 1982, he enlisted in the United States Army. He also enlisted in the Navy and served at Naval Air Station Alameda in the San Francisco Bay Area. Also in 1982, McKnight was arrested by Oakland police while attempting to harm a girl who refused to have intimate relations with him. He was not convicted and got off with a fine, but his information was entered in an offender database and his fingerprints entered in the criminal system. Between September and December 1985, McKnight caused 5 women to pass away in Alameda County, California. On September 22, 1985, he caused Betty Stewart, age 22, to pass away. Her throat was slit. On September 29, 1985, he caused Diane Stone, age 17, to pass away. Her body was found on primary school grounds with knife wounds to the neck. On October 13, 1985, he caused Talita Dixon, age 13, to pass away.
She was found in an Oakland alley. On November 20, 1985, he caused Monique Davis, age 18, to pass away near the Calicut Tunnel. On December 24, 1985, Christmas Eve, he caused Beverly Bryant, age 24, to pass away. Her body was found at an elementary school in the Oakland Hills. All individuals were taken from life through brutal attacks. By December 1985, McKnight had carried out attacks on other individuals. In one case he inflicted 10 stab wounds. In another he stabbed someone in the face. Both survived and gave descriptions of the offender. One described his vehicle and part of the license plate. In January 1986, McKnight harmed another individual and dumped her in Oakland's industrial area. She survived. Police showed McKnight's photograph to 3 individuals. All identified him as their attacker. On January 24, 1986, McKnight was arrested. He was charged with harming and attempting to cause 3 individuals to pass away. On August 24, 1987, McKnight was found guilty and sentenced to 63 years. He was incarcerated at Salinas Valley State Prison. 12 years later, investigators tried to tie McKnight to unsolved incidents. They got permission to take a DNA sample. McKnight obliged with blood and saliva. Thanks to DNA profiling, McKnight was connected to the 5 incidents from 1985. In 2007, Alameda County prosecutors filed charges. His trial began on July 16, 2008. Deputy District Attorney Jim Meehan argued McKnight methodically targeted vulnerable young women. The prosecution cited overwhelming DNA evidence. After almost 2 months, the jury found McKnight guilty. On November 17, 2008, he was sentenced to death. He was transferred to San Quentin State Prison. On October 17, 2019, McKnight was found unresponsive in his cell at around 9. He was pronounced deceased at 10:09 p.m. He was 65 years old. The cause of death was not immediately known. He had spent more than 33 years behind bars and 11 years on death row. This is what happens when you become a predator. You think targeting vulnerable individuals keeps you hidden. You think using brutal methods creates fear, but individuals survive and identify you. DNA evidence connects you to 5 incidents. A jury convicts you. You get sentenced to death. And you spend 33 years behind bars before passing away in your cell. McKnight destroyed family, 5 individuals taken from life, multiple others harmed. And he died alone on death row. The concrete walls never let go. Todd Morgan was born around 1967 in Santa Clara County, California. He earned the nickname Fox. By 2000, Morgan was deeply involved in organized crime. He broke into Santa Clara University and attacked a security guard. He was convicted of robbery and burglary. In 2009, while at Salinas Valley State Prison, he was convicted of assault for attacking another inmate. In 2014, he was identified as a suspect when 4 inmates attacked 2 others with knives, causing one to pass away and one to be injured. Morgan joined the Aryan Brotherhood, a white supremacist prison gang. In 2020, federal authorities indicted Morgan and dozens of others for running a multi-state drug ring from inside prison. Morgan coordinated multi-pound methamphetamine and heroin deals from his cell at Salinas Valley. In one instance, someone attempted to throw a drug-filled football over the prison wall. Morgan used contraband cell phones to communicate thousands of times with associates both inside and outside prison. Federal prosecutors charged him with trying to smuggle drugs, guns, and contraband. He was sentenced to 21 years in federal prison on top of his state sentence for robbery, burglary, drugs, gun possession, and 3 strikes enhancements. On October 24, 2024, at around 10 a.m., Morgan was on a prison yard at Salinas Valley State Prison. 3 inmates attacked him with improvised weapons. Correctional officers responded immediately and gave orders to stop. The 3 suspects were Todd Givens, age 56, Ray Waldron, age 51, and Robert England, age 61. Officers placed them in restraints and began life-saving measures on Morgan. They called 911. Medical assistance continued as Morgan was transported to the prison's medical facility. Morgan sustained multiple stab wounds to his body and face. At 11:11 a.m., a doctor pronounced Morgan deceased. He was 57 years old. The three suspects were placed in restrictive housing pending investigation. Givens goes by Stomper and is a suspected Nazi lowriders gang member. He had previously stabbed an Aryan Brotherhood hitman and slashed a prison guard. Morgan was set to go before a parole board in 2028, but he never made it. This is what happens when you join a white supremacist prison gang. You think running drug operations from your cell makes you powerful. You think contraband cell phones keep you safe, but eventually, rivals come for you on the prison yard. You get stabbed to death at age 57. 3 inmates with improvised weapons, multiple stab wounds, pronounced deceased within an hour. Morgan spent decades behind bars. He built criminal networks. He coordinated drug deals across state lines. And he passed away bleeding on a prison yard. The concrete walls never let go. Todd Givens was born around 1969. He became a member of the white supremacist prison gang subordinate to the Aryan Brotherhood. On January 17, 2001, Givens took the lives of 2 people in Tulare County. He caused the death of a fellow white supremacist prison and the man's sister. After taking their lives, Givens set their bodies on fire. He was arrested and charged with 2 counts of first-degree offense with special circumstances. In 2003, a Tulare County judge found him guilty. Givens was sentenced to death. He was sent to San Quentin State Prison to death row. Givens spent years on death row. He was involved in multiple violent incidents behind bars. He stabbed a deceased Aryan Brotherhood hitman. He slashed a prison guard's face with a weapon. He showed no signs of rehabilitation. In 2019, California Governor Gavin Newsom placed a moratorium on the death penalty. No executions would happen in California. Givens would not be executed. Eventually, he was transferred from San Quentin to Salinas Valley State Prison. He was 56 years old when he arrived. On October 23, 2025, Givens was involved in another violent incident. Around 10 in the morning, Givens along with Ray Waldron and Robert England attacked Todd Fox Morgan on a recreation yard at Salinas Valley. Morgan was 57 years old. He was a high-ranking Aryan Brotherhood member, serving life sentences for robbery, burglary, and firearms possession. He was also serving a 21-year federal sentence for running a drug distribution ring from inside prison. Morgan had pleaded guilty in 2021 to conspiring to distribute methamphetamine and heroin. Givens and his accomplices used improvised weapons to attack Morgan. Correctional staff witnessed the attack. They ordered them to stop. The perpetrators ignored the commands. They continued the assault. Morgan was stabbed multiple times. He passed away from his injuries. Givens, Waldron, and England were immediately placed in restrictive housing. The Monterey County District Attorney's Office and prison investigators began investigating. Authorities have not released the motive for the attack. A law enforcement source said authorities were not previously aware. Morgan was in bad standing with other Aryan Brotherhood members. Givens is now facing additional charges for causing death inside prison. If convicted, he will receive another life sentence. He is already on death row. Another conviction won't change much. He will remain in restrictive housing for the rest of his life. Givens has spent decades causing violence. He took 2 lives in 2001. He attacked multiple people in prison. Now he is accused of taking another life in 2025. He is 56 years old. He will die behind bars, whether on death row or in general population. Givens represents the worst of the prison gang system. Violence is all he knows.
Edgar L. Freyer was born in 1995 and grew up in Stockton, California. He became involved with criminal street gangs as a teenager. On August 30, 2013, when Freyer was 19 years old, he was involved in an incident that took the life of a 16-year-old boy along Salem Way in Stockton. Authorities responded to reports of gunfire and found the teenager suffering from a wound. The teen was rushed to the hospital but passed away from his injuries.
Stockton Police Department detectives investigated and identified Frere as the person who discharged the firearm. Frere fled after the incident. Authorities issued a warrant for his arrest. He was considered armed and dangerous. Police believed he might be heading to Mexico to avoid capture. Frere had a Murder Valley tattoo on his chest showing his gang affiliation. On September 3, 2013, Frere was located and arrested in San Jose. He was booked into prison on suspicion of causing death. The case to San Joaquin County Court. In 2014, Frere was convicted of voluntary offense and participation in a criminal street gang act. On April 2, 2014, he was sentenced to 50 years and 8 months in state prison. He was transferred to Salinas Valley State Prison in Soledad to serve his time. But Frere's violence didn't stop behind bars. On April 8, 2025, Frere was involved in another incident inside the prison. At approximately 5:39 in the evening, correctional staff witnessed Frere and another inmate named Nicholas Young attacking fellow inmate Joseph Mendoza with improvised weapons on the dayroom floor in Facility C. Staff immediately ordered them to stop. Frere and Young ignored the commands. Correctional officers deployed multiple less-than-lethal use of force options to stop the attack. Frere and Young were secured in handcuffs. Medical staff rushed to help Mendoza, but he was pronounced deceased at 6:10 in the evening. Mendoza was 36 years old. He had been serving 22 years and 4 months for robbery and attempted offense. Frere and Young suffered no serious injuries. Both were placed in restricted housing pending investigation by the prison and the Monterey County District Attorney's Office. Frere is now 30 years old. He is being investigated for another offense while serving his 50-year sentence. If convicted of causing Mendoza's death, he will face additional life sentences. Frere took a life when he was 19. Then he took another life while in prison. He will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars.